your day off should really be next Monday, February 22nd, George Washington's actual birthday. You see, government hijacked our first president's birthday and turned it into a generic President's Day. This is not about Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or even President Trump or Biden. It's about George Washington and his humble leadership, his refusal as president to take on the characteristics of a tyrannical king like the one he and our nation fought to escape. But we wouldn't know all that because in 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act. And over the years, the name changed to President's Day. This includes Lincoln's birthday now, too. But sadly, we've forgotten what the day was really about, that we are a republic, not a monarchy. That discussion has been all but lost. And I find it ironic now that the left is willing to equate President's Day to Lincoln and Washington. That's good for them. They get the day off, right? But those two iconic, heroic presidents are not good enough now to have their names on schools anymore in liberal cities like San Francisco and beyond. Well, joining me now is presidential historian, former advisor to President George H.W. Bush, and author of Inside Trump's White House, The Real Story of His Presidency. Doug Wead is with us. Doug, it's always great to see you. Thanks for joining me on President's Day.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks for having me.
So what do you make of my assessment as the historian here that this really should be about George Washington and his contribution to America?
Yeah, George Washington was a phenomenon. The British didn't know what to make of him. Even when he was an officer, long before, when he was a scout for the British, long before he became prominent in colonial politics, the British would send memos back to England saying, this man, extraordinary man. Then when he became the first president, the gift that the United Kingdom gave to Washington upon his inauguration was a chronology to show royal blood in his ancestry. There was no other way they could explain how this man had defeated him. He had to have aristocratic blood. And George Washington turned it down. He said, we're building a new country, and in this country, it's what you do yourself, not who your parents and ancestors were. He was a remarkable person for his time.
He was a populist candidate then, I guess, before there were populist candidates, huh, Doug?
They wanted to make him king. There were many that wanted to make him king, and he walked away from power. Think of that. See how Vladimir Putin hangs on to power and changes the Constitution, won't let it go. That's what we're used to. You got to take people kicking and screaming out of power. Yeah. But George Washington walked away from it and set a pattern, a trend for other presidents to follow.
I look at what the Democrats do just to keep and seize that power and the lengths they are willing to go. You know, George Washington, a phenomenal man. Maybe before I let you go, because I do think it's important what we remember these guys on President's Day. What did George Washington, the other signers of our documents that really make this country what it is, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, they put it all on the line for this country, Doug. They risked their lives. They could have been executed from England, their businesses. It's like nothing we ever see today.
They didn't have a chance. They didn't have a prayer. Well, they had a prayer. That was about it. But Washington led that army. They had no money, but it was his strength of will, his courage. Today they complain about Lincoln, but there would have been no Lincoln without George Washington. So he took the risks, and he led this country to its freedom. Each precious step these presidents took towards freedom was important and gave us freedom of speech and the freedoms that we have today. Remarkable figures in history, some of the most remarkable figures in history.
When you think,
and you know, Grant, when you go around the world, lots of countries don't have heroes. America, it tells us more about ourselves than the presidents, the way we celebrate our presidents.
Yeah, that's for sure. Some heroes I like to celebrate a little more than others. Members of our military, cops, guys like George Washington. You know, he put it, American exceptionalism started before 1776, before it, and it still exists today. This gives me hope, Doug. I appreciate you coming on the program. This is what America's about. Thank you, my man.
My friends are calling me all the time and writing me and saying, you've disappeared from television. We can't find you. We don't see you anymore. This is the only way we've been figured out how to beat the censors. If you subscribe to this channel, hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell, you'll get notification when I'm on TV. Otherwise, you won't get my Instagrams, my messages on Facebook. It's censorship. So I want to hear from you. I want you to be able to hear from me.